Hello, everyone. Welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host, Liam, aka Himvar, and I just have another weekly update for you. Um, I finished 4 books this week, um, besides just my class stuff. But let's see. I have 3 of them physically. Which one do I not have physically? Okay, Water Sleeps. I don't have that physically, so I'll mention that one first. Glenn Cook. Um, Maybe my least favorite of the 3 Glittering Stone books I've read so far. I don't know. I like Sleepy. It just like reiterates a lot of stuff that happened in the second book, and then more stuff kind of happens. I like the ending of it. The ending is much more of an ending than either the first or the second book is, but there's a fourth book as well. So I don't know how that fourth one's going to go, but hopefully I'll read it soon. Actually, um, how this had gone the previous weeks is I had read, like, if I had finished, say, like, She is the Darkness, then I had started Water Sleeps, and I was decently far into Water Sleeps. Well, I finished Water Sleeps, and I have not started Soldiers Live. We shall see when I get to that. I think soon. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But anyways, Water Sleeps is still good. I'm still interested in this stuff. Lots of thoughts, but spoilers, so I won't really mention it here. And then I also finished Darkwell by Douglas Niles. Finally done with the the Moonshade trilogy. I really like this cover actually. But I think it ends well. I am interested actually in eventually getting to the sequel trilogy. Um, I don't know where that is on my shelves, right? But maybe the best in the trilogy. In fact, I actually like the trilogy pretty well overall. My biggest gripe was in that first book, where I think the second half of the book is noticeably weaker than that first half of the book, and in large part it's because it doesn't really read like the first half of the book. There's like kind of two very different halves, and um, I mean there are a couple things like there's a bunch of world building set up, and the characters aren't that interesting. In the second and third book, the world becomes much more much less its own thing as it was originally going to be its own setting and much more just a part of the Forgotten Realms, essentially. It hardly feels like it at all in the first book. It is enjoyable, though. We'll see what else I read by Douglas Niles as well. So that's the second book. Then I also finished Shadow of the Seventh Moon by Nancy Varian Bearbrick. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I would like. It took me a while to get through. It was fine. It has some cool stuff going on. I think it's just mostly the style of it made it rather difficult to get into. I'm not sure why that is. It was an interesting style that was good for some things. Like it kind of felt like a ghost story, like something you hear around the campfire or whatever. That makes sense if you know the framing of it. Um, but also it just didn't really connect. It was hard to really connect with it. And I don't know. That's mostly my complaint with it. I do think some of the choices of like mixing the Old Norse with Old English stuff, even though it's like firmly set in Mercia, right, England. I think that's a little interesting. But overall, it does a decent job of referring to Old English poetry, which has a very particular feel to it. If you haven't read it, and I think that is well done. So. Um, And then the last thing I finished was Old Moon Quarterly number 7. I have issue 8 on standby, but I haven't started it. But I really enjoyed this. It might be my favorite one. I said that about 6, so that's a good sign. Um, I'm not sure how I feel about 8. I feel like I will like most of the stuff in 8. I'm not sure I'll like everything just because there's like at least one story in there where I wasn't a big fan actually of the first story that I'd read about this in Old Moon, and so there's a follow up to it in the next issue of Old Moon, issue 8. Um, I should probably. I've been trying. I've been. Well, I wrote a story for to submit to Old Moon. I submitted. I think I submitted a story to when issues 7 and 8 came out as well. So I submitted to Old Moon. I think maybe every time they've opened for submissions, or almost every at least. And I need to probably double check that story, but I'm really tired right now. Anyway, so that is that though. Very enjoyable. Again, as is a bit unsurprising, I'd say. Uh, Definitely the style of the magazine has gotten better and better, right? 1 through 3 have a certain style, and then 4 and 5 are kind of playing on it. I think 5 even catches a bit more of what I normally think of Old Moon now, and then 6 continues that um, with some improvements. 7 continues improvements, and then 8 as well. So those are the books I finished. I am really close actually to finishing The Wake by Paul Kingsnorth, I think, which well, I didn't know it existed until Graham when I was talking to the Old Moon people on my channel a couple weeks ago. I didn't have a video this Wednesday. Actually, I just as a topic, but The Wake, I am enjoying it. It's funny. Besides like the first sentence taking some adjustment, it's actually really easy to read for me. Though I would be interested to hear how easy it is for most people to read, as it's really just modern English with like Old English spelling. That's pretty much it. I mean, there is the occasional like Old English word in there. Um, in some sense, it's kind of like English, but not really at the same time. The vocabulary is rather minor, actually. I think it's rather straightforward to read, um, and it is interesting. The main character follows Buckmaster is really not very likable, which I I wasn't really sure what to expect going into it, but it's an enjoyable book. I'm not quite done with it, but I don't think it'll be a favorite, but I definitely appreciate what the as far as language is concerned, what the author is doing. And then speaking of, I didn't do a Wednesday video. I had several thoughts where I could just come on and do like a little chatting thing. Those videos never really seem to do that well. I never really I haven't felt like part of BookTube in a while. I don't do a lot of stuff that most of BookTube does, which is fine by me because I mostly want my videos to be material rather than content in a sense. Um, and so if I don't feel like I have anything worthwhile saying, I'm not going to come on and say it. Essentially, I want every video I have, besides mostly its weekly updates. These are like mostly the most content video I do. Um, that and I think they're worth it. I think the weekly updates are worth it because I mention stuff in my weekly updates that I'm not going to mention everywhere because I don't review everything. For example, I read a short story and I mention it here. Um, Writing, I pretty much mention here. Um, I don't know. I'm always like torn. Like I really want to be productive. I'm always really torn with like I did have an extra video come out on my Alfred homily project channel, which I like being proud of my videos. And when when I have done the types of videos that BookTube normally does in the past, I really just don't like the videos. I do not enjoy filming them. I don't feel like it's worth putting out. I don't watch them, so why would I make them, right? I mean, like I don't watch a lot of that strict BookTube content. I like the stuff to be educational in a sense, but I also want it to be about the stuff I'm interested in. So that's why that's why I do what I do, because I'm making the stuff that I want to consume in a sense, or that I want to, I don't know what I'm saying. It's like the same thing with the writing, right? Write a story you want to read. Same thing. And I do that too with the writing, but there's a reason I don't sell any of my stories because no one else wants to read them. And that's one thing I've noticed for a long time actually, is that like I get way minimal interaction on my channel compared to most everyone else on BookTube, from what I can tell. Like you go to a video that has like 15 views on a random BookTube channel and it's gonna have like 10 comments. I don't. Most of my videos don't get any comments actually, so which is fine. I'm not complaining. I just feel like in that sense, though, again, is another thing that makes me not feel like I'm part of BookTube. Um, so, anyways, I am also reading The Dagger and Vichy still. I really am not that far into it. It's really slow, or sorry, it's really short. I just haven't read that much of it. I'm a bit disappointed. I mean, it's Alistair Reynolds, so it's about what I expected because I enjoy Reynolds, but like I was hoping it'd be more of just a genre, less genre, lacking of genre, because it feels very strictly sci-fi. It's got trappings of like a early modern, um, like romance kind of, but it still feels very sci-fi, and it's not. I just don't know. I'd rather have my science fantasy with it being way less obvious that it's science. um, that being said, it's still enjoyable. It's rather short, so um, I also um, I started the first king of Shannara. I'm over halfway through with this. I'm enjoying it actually. I've come to enjoy reading Terry Brooks stuff. This kind of remind me like I hate almost everyone on BookTube calls this stuff classic fantasy, and I think that is like maybe not a misnomer, but like at least it needs a lot more context for that label to be accurate. I think classic fantasy. Okay, what are you talking about? William Morris? You talking about George MacDonald? You talking about something older than that? What's more anachronistic? Normally, what I normally actually know what people are talking about. They're not probably talking about Robbie Howard or Fritz Leiber, um, or Lee Brackett or C.L. Moore or Roger Zelazny. They're probably talking about Tolkien and stuff that is trying to imitate Tolkien in some sense. I think it always misses the mark in some ways, but some of them hit the mark in kind of successful ways. And so, like when I read like the Deathgate cycle, I found that very comfortable in a sense. I wouldn't call it classic fantasy. It's just kind of comfortable 80s, 90s style wannabe Tolkien, but doesn't really hit it at all and settles for something else. Shannara is kind of like that for me as well. So um, I'm enjoying it. It's a nice standalone. Shannara always surprises me with how it kind of feels very easily accessible, but it is kind of dark in a lot of ways, actually. So, um, and while I really did not enjoy The Sword of Shannara, I read that before I started my channel. Um, I've enjoyed pretty much every Shannara book since. Witch Song maybe being my least favorite after Sword, but um, I'm enjoying this. And then after this, I'm reading these in publication order, so I'm going to get into Running with the Demon afterwards, which should be interesting. It's like quite a different pace and style for the Shannara books. Excuse me. I also have made decent progress in the Perils of Persilis and Sigismunda. What's funny is that we now actually have characters associated with Persilis and Sigismunda. Kind of already knew going into it the idea that these are the main characters and they're literally not mentioned in the first 120 pages or so of the book, that they are using different names essentially. And so it's interesting. I'm in part 2 now. The first part is like mostly like Perils at Sea, largely having a lot of different people coming in, them telling their stories, whatnot. Those stories sort of playing out, and mostly physical danger at sea. And now it is a lot more emotional, like interpersonal perils going on right now in part 2. Very interesting. Still not sure all about how Persilis and Sigismunda really how they go together. But it seems like it might not be as it seems exactly. But I am enjoying it. It's not like a super engaging read. There's a lot of words per page, so it's not fast read either. But it is enjoyable. I like how Cervantes he mentions stuff that I wouldn't be familiar with, like Spanish, like references, but also just classical references and stuff that he would have heard of or been aware of at the time in the early 17th century. So I'm also not super far in, but decently far in. The warm, I always said this Ouroboros. I don't know actually how to say it. Ouroboros. It's one of those words that I just never actually heard anyone say, and I just said it myself. So, by E.R. Edison. I've had this copy for a while. I think I got this early on when I started my channel, but it does have a dust jacket. I took it off, but this is an illustrated version. Doesn't actually have that many illustrations, but there are a couple. I'm enjoying it. This one is another one, not super gripping in many ways, but actually surprisingly gripping. I make decent progress, and then I'm on page 134, chapter 10. So I really like the style of it, the language of it. It is a bit baroque at times, but works rather well at other times, especially when you get the like swift action, right? The wrestling scene, the throwing this bottle in someone's face, really good stuff at times. And I am enjoying the story. Actually, I really didn't know anything about the story going into it, which is surprising. But I knew like there was demons and there was witches and stuff like that. And it turns out none of them are actually demons or witches. They're all just humans, and they all just have these interesting names like imps and demons and pixies and goblins and whatnot. Yeah, so but I am enjoying it. We'll see how far I get into that this week. I hate deckled pages, by the way. So many books I've touched recently have deckled pages, and it's so irksome. Um, but anyways, I think that's it. So I might have a Wednesday video for you all. Actually, I have something planned. I don't know if that plan is solid enough for it to actually happen. So if that plan does not go to plan, I don't know what video I'll have, if any. So I am busy. I am in the semester, getting near the end of the semester. I have an essay due. Um, I need to get my July homily translation going. That one has problems I don't need to discuss here, but that has taken some time. And I'm still hoping for this promotion at work, but no word on that for a week and a half. So it would be very, 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 very nice. Um, I think that's probably a topic for another channel, but it is always like it's just disappointing in some ways how much I work the blue collar job. I literally wear a blue collared shirt at work too, which is just funny. But uh, it's interesting just how normal people act like 9 to 5s are, and I just haven't been able to get one. So, and I graduated. You guys might remember if you've been watching the channel. I graduated with my bachelor's mind because I had an associate's about 2 years ago. Still haven't gotten a job, but I have not started a career. It's funny. I was looking at a post today, and this girl on LinkedIn, and she's like, 6 months ago I graduated, and 5 months ago I started this job. I'm like, wow, that's nuts, right? Like, I don't feel like my degree was any more worthless, right, or any less worthwhile than whatever her degree was, right? But yet here I am. So, anyways, again, I don't want to be complaining. It is just an interesting stuff to think about in a sense, and it comes up sometimes. I'll see in like sword and sorcery stuff. They're like working class, like art, and I'm like, what is working class when you say that? Like, because like most people work for a living, right? Do you mean blue collar? Because that's probably not actually very many sword and sorcery authors, right? So I mean, like, or many authors in general. So if you want to support blue collar authors and go read my stuff. I don't advertise my stuff at all, but I do have a book you can go buy, and I have short stories that you can find from my website, which is always linked in all the videos. So uh, hopefully I'll have more now in the future. Anyways, lean for the wise. Catch you next time.